Hello my quilting friends! My name is Leah Day and I am stitching out an oldie goldie design from the Free Motion Quilting Project, Flame Key. And we are going to stitch this on the baby onesie t-shirt quilt on my home sewing machine on the Cutie Frame. But I first want to show you how the design works. We're going to draw it together. So this design is stitched by creating first a kind of a foundation of a wiggly flame shape, and you're going to stitch that in a row. Now, when quilting on the Cutie, I could have gone all the way across my quilt, but I would have had to stop and shift the quilt in order to get it to the next section so I could quilt all the way across. So I decided I'm going to actually break the rules a little bit of Flame Key and wiggle down and then wiggle back up and echo that line rather than having to stop and shift, go on ahead and stitch the maximum amount of space I can stitch with this design in one area. And you can see that creates kind of a little bit of an extra wiggle there, but I think that this is going to work great. It's going to be a great way to use the space that you have in your frame, maximizing the space in your home sewing machine, and that's going to make quilting that much faster, that much easier. So I'm getting started with that first row of flame shapes, and I can speed up my machine here using my speed controller. So I go at a pretty fast pace, and I'm just wiggling up, coming to a point, wiggling back down, and I'm creating and establishing that texture. Now, one thing I've noticed with these t-shirts, they do tend to wiggle and move because that's knit fabric. So every once in a while, I'll mush on it with my hand just to make sure I don't stitch a pleat in the quilt. But you know, I have stitched a few, I'll be completely honest. There have been a few little wiggles and blips on this quilt, and it really isn't a big deal. So if you have that happen to you, please don't feel bad about it. Knit fabric is knit fabric. It's gonna move. All right, so we're coming up here on the end, and what is our game plan? We want to keep going with this design, but I also want to kind of stitch down and secure this edge. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to stitch all the way down, kind of mushing on that fabric just to know how far I can stitch. You know, where does my machine bottom out? Where does the motor hit that back rail? And it's about right there. All right, now I can start my next row. So I just wiggle in, and I'm going to keep these lines roughly about a ½ an inch apart. You could widen that if you wanted a softer quilt, put an inch between those lines of quilting, but I really like texture, so that's why I'm having those lines come just a little bit closer together. Now, it looks like I have a really bulky spot here. So I'm going to needle down, make sure my needle's in the down position, and I'm going to kind of squish on that just a little bit just to make sure it's underneath my presser foot so that as I take the next stitch, it's going to be onto that hump of fabric. Like I said, knit fabric is knit fabric. There we go. When in doubt, stop, wiggle, fiddle with it, and it will all work out. But if I had just plowed right through there, I would have gotten a snow plow. It might have hung up on my foot, you know, all kinds of stuff. So just watch out for that kind of thing. If you are making a baby onesie t-shirt quilt too, or any sort of t-shirt quilt, just understand it's always going to be a little adventure in fabric manipulation. All right, so this is where I shifted my fabric forward. In order to make this kind of seamless, I'm just going to come to a little wiggly point and then begin wiggling my way back. And this is the last row of the design, so I'm actually going to extend it until I feel my foot bottom out against the back of the machine. So right here, this is kind of the limit of how far I can stitch, and that's making the best use of my quilting space with this machine on this frame. So this is a really important tactic. If you are using a smaller home sewing machine on a frame, you want to use the most out of that space. You want to actually get as much quilting done in that area as you can. So I think Flame Key, stitching it this way, is really going to work great. And I love the way this texture looks on the front and the back. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed learning Flame Key with me and you're excited about giving this a try, no matter whether you're stitching on a home sewing machine, on a frame, or on a table, or on a long arm. Hopefully this has given you some inspiration and ideas for taking a design, modifying it a little bit if you need to make it work in a new area, and stitching it up a notch so it creates a beautiful texture for your quilts. Now, if you like even more free motion quilting inspiration, come and find my book, 365 Free Motion Quilting Designs. You can find it at leahday.com/365book. Until next time, let's go quilt.